Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. French Prime Minister Michel Barnier ousted after losing the no-confidence vote. South Korea opposition push to impeach President Yoon Suk Yeol over martial law order, voting on Saturday. North Korea-Russia defense treaty comes into force to deepen military cooperation and counter Western sanctions. In sports, Grandmaster D. Gukesh and reigning champion Ding Liren to face each other once again in the 9th game of the World Chess Championship 2024. Score tied at 4 each after 8 games. French lawmakers on Wednesday voted to dismiss Prime Minister Michel Barnier's government just 3 months into his tenure. France's far-right and left-wing lawmakers joined together to vote a no-confidence motion prompted by budget disputes that forced Prime Minister Michel Barnier to resign. The National Assembly approved the motion by 31 votes. A minimum of 288 were needed. French President Emmanuel Macron will address the nation on Thursday evening in a televised speech. Macron insisted that he will serve the rest of his term until 2027. However, he will need to appoint a new prime minister for the second time after July's legislative elections led to a deeply divided parliament. His is the first French government to be defeated in a no-confidence motion since 1962, and Barnier is now set to become France's shortest-serving prime minister in history. French Prime Minister Michel Barnier said on Wednesday night that no confidence vote will make everything more difficult and that France's deficit problem will come back to haunt a future government.
What I am sure of, ladies and gentlemen, what I am saying with all seriousness in front of you is that this motion of no confidence, at a moment when you are certainly preparing to approve in conjunction with the opposition side, this motion of no confidence will make everything more serious and more difficult. That's what I'm sure of.
Meanwhile, Marine Le Pen, who leads the far-right party National Rally at Parliament, blamed the political impasse squarely at French President Emmanuel Macron, who she said has sought to destroy French institutions, including the police, and to weaken industrial players.
This budget doesn't just attack France, it takes French people hostage, and most especially the most vulnerable. Pensioners with limited resources, people with illness, impoverished workers, French people considered too rich to receive aid, but not poor enough to escape a financial hammering.
Interestingly, in France, only one motion of no confidence has ever been passed since 1958. It was in 1962 and it was aimed at Prime Minister Georges Pompidou and through him President Charles de Gaulle. A month and a half later, the two men found themselves more secure than ever. South Korea's parliament on Thursday formally introduced a motion to impeach President Yoon Suk Yeol, setting the stage for a historic vote which could oust him following the failure of his short-lived attempt to declare martial law. Yoon's declaration of martial law late on Tuesday attempted to ban political activity and censor the media in South Korea. The shock move divided Yoon's ministers and unleashed 6 hours of political chaos. The impeachment motion against Yoon was reported to a plenary session that opened shortly after midnight in the early hours of Thursday morning. Following the introduction of the motion, a vote on impeachment must be held within 24 to 72 hours. Meanwhile, South Korean prosecutors have opened an investigation into President Yeol, his interior minister and the now former defense minister over their roles in an attempt to impose martial law. Kim Yong-hyun, who resigned as South Korean defense minister over his involvement in martial law order, also faces a travel ban as prosecutors investigate. The other two do not face such bans. Demonstrators called for South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol's impeachment outside the parliament building. UN's declaration of martial law has sparked outrage in the streets and concern among the international allies. North Korea-Russia defense treaty signed by Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin in June came into force on Wednesday with the exchange of ratification instruments in Moscow. The Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty binds the two nations to provide military aid without delay if either is attacked and to jointly resist Western sanctions. Amid allegations from the US and South Korea that North Korea has sent over 10,000 soldiers to aid Russia in Ukraine, both nations face heavy UN sanctions. Putin praised the agreement as a breakthrough, while Kim reaffirmed unwavering support for Russia's sovereignty. US President-elect Donald Trump asked a Georgia appeals court on Wednesday to end the criminal case against him in that state for attempting to overturn his 2020 election laws. Trump's lawyers asserted that the state's courts will not have jurisdiction over him once he returns to the White House. They stressed that a sitting president is immune from indictment or any criminal process. Trump was indicted in Georgia in August 2023 on 13 felony counts, though 2 counts were later thrown out. He is alleged of changing the 2020 election outcome while participating in a criminal enterprise. Other charges include false claims of election fraud and solicitation of violation of oath. The Israeli military continues its operation to neutralize Hamas from the Gaza Strip. Israeli tanks pushed into northern parts of Khan Younis area in the south of the Gaza Strip on Wednesday. Residents said that tanks advanced one day after the Israeli military issued new evacuation orders, saying there had been rocket launches by Hamas from the area. With shells crashing near residential areas, families left their homes and headed westwards towards the nearby humanitarian designated area of Al-Mawasi. The Israeli military said the strike targeted senior Hamas militants operating from the humanitarian zone in Khan Younis. Israel's army released footage on Wednesday of a strike on what they call a Hezbollah launcher in southern Lebanon amid an ongoing ceasefire agreement between the two sides. In a post on messaging app Telegram accompanying the video, the army said a launcher that was identified in Majdal zone in southern Lebanon violated the agreements between Israel and Lebanon and posed a threat to the state of Israel. Israel says it targets Hezbollah's fighters and infrastructures. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said on Wednesday that Israel had pressurized Hamas to the extent that a hostage deal with the Iranian-backed group might be possible. Speaking to soldiers at an Air Force base in central Israel, Katz said that due to increased military pressure, there is a chance that this time we will be really able to advance a hostage deal. Mass protests continued for a 7th night in Georgia on Wednesday, triggered by the governing party's decision to suspend negotiations on joining the European Union. The protests came after Georgian police raided the offices of an opposition party and arrested its leader earlier in the day in an apparent attempt to halt the movement. Georgian opposition media figure, former Justice Minister and ally of ex-Georgian President Mikhail Saakashvili, now head of Coalition for Change Party, Nika Gwarima, was also detained by police in the capital Tbilisi. Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze said that the ongoing arrest of opposition figures and reported searches at offices of various organizations in Georgia were more prevention than repression.
I could not call it repression. It is more prevention than repression. Regarding the connection, it is a fact one thing is confirmed. People were systematically supplied with pyrotechnics and other means by the relevant political forces. This is absolutely clear and it lies in the palm of the hand.
Namibians showed excitement as the country elected the first president. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah has made history by becoming Namibia's first female president. The 72-year-old won more than 57% of the vote, with her closest rival Panduleni Itula getting 26%, according to the Electoral Commission. Nandi Datwa has fought against occupying powers, fled into exile and established herself as one of the most prominent women in Namibian politics. Namibians are excited after the country elected its first woman president, marking a historic moment in the nation's political history. Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has granted legal recognition to 3 new indigenous territories, bringing the total to 13 during his current term. The newly recognized lands include Potiguara de Montemor in Paraíba and 2 in Santa Catarina, Morro dos Cavalos and Toldo Imbu. Now, these territories will receive legal protection against illegal loggers, miners and ranchers. While Lula has championed indigenous rights, recognition for some territories faces delays due to occupation disputes. One such case is Algarve's remain unresolved, though discussions are set for next week. Lula's third term underscores his commitment to safeguarding Brazil's indigenous lands amid ongoing environmental and social challenges. Mexican security forces seized 1,100 kilograms of fentanyl in Sinaloa, the largest haul in the nation's history. Equivalent to 20 million doses and valued at $400 million, the seizure strikes a heavy blow to organized crime. The operation, guided by intelligence and public tips, targeted 2 properties in a home, uncovering fentanyl, precursor chemicals, vehicles and industrial mixers. Now, this comes amid escalating violence between Sinaloa cartel factions following the arrest of kingpin El Mayo Zambada. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum hailed the operation as a major success, emphasizing its long-term planning. Meanwhile, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump pressurized Mexico to curb fentanyl trafficking and illegal migration, threatening tariffs if significant progress is not made. UNICEF launched a $9.9 billion funding appeal to tackle a growing area of humanitarian challenges confronting children in 146 countries. The funds will be utilized in UNICEF's humanitarian response to multiple conflicts, climate shocks, displacement and health crises expected next year. Around the world, 213 million children are at sharp end of unpredictable and volatile humanitarian emergencies. With 109 million children targeted by UNICEF for humanitarian assistance in 2025, donor funding is critical to ensure the response is timely, effective and sufficient. Lawlessness and mobocracy continued in Bangladesh. Every day, Hindu minorities are persecuted, physically assaulted, property destroyed and their religious places vandalized. The interim government there, instead of taking steps blaming entirely on Bharat and Bengali media of West Bengal as well as Sanatan leaders of Bharat. To sustain international pressure, Khan Younis held a meeting with political parties on Wednesday except Awami League and justified blame on Bharat. On Thursday, he will be holding similar meetings with religious leaders except minority religions to ratify a similar anti-Bharat narrative to divert attention of lawlessness of his own country. Up next, we're heading for a short break. You're watching DD India Live, but after the break, Bhutanese King Jigme Khesa and Namgyal Wangchuk in Delhi on a 2-day visit. ISRO gearing up for launch of PSLV C-59 Proba 3 mission. New York all set for Christmas celebrations.
We have with us Mr. Philippe Noyes from Australia. So when we talk about, first of all, the award, because you've been sharing a lot of stories about Satyajit Ray and what kind of inspiration you drew from the legend.
Satyajit Ray taught us to look for the heart, make stories from the heart, to be small in scope but big in heart. You know, receiving this award named after that great filmmaker, it's humbling.
Welcome back. After the break, you're watching DD India Live. Let's continue getting you more international updates. Russian President Vladimir Putin has once again underlined how initiatives like Make in India have helped India make huge progress in recent years. He made these remarks during an interaction with Russia Calling Investment Forum. Putin also said that India First policy has created stable conditions in the country and Russia is ready to place manufacturing sites in India.
Modi has a similar program, Make in India, and this is a very similar program to ours, and we would be ready to place our manufacturing sites in India. Also, the biggest investment in the Indian economy to the tune of $20 billion by Rosneft happened not long ago, and the Prime Minister of India and the government of India have been creating stable conditions. And this is because the Indian leadership has been pursuing India comes first policy. And we believe that investments in India are profitable.
Bhutanese King Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk arrived in New Delhi today on a two-day visit with the aim to further expand the already close ties between the two countries. During his visit, the Bhutanese king will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will also call on the visiting dignitary. India and Bhutan enjoy unique ties of friendship and cooperation, which are characterized by mutual understanding and trust. The visit shall provide both sides an opportunity to review the entire gamut of bilateral cooperation and to further advance the exemplary bilateral partnership across diverse sectors. The Indian Space Research Organisation ISRO is gearing up for the launch of PSLV C-59 Proba 3 mission on Thursday from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre in southern state of Andhra Pradesh's Sriharikota. Earlier, the mission was scheduled for the launch on December 4th, but due to anomaly detected, it was rescheduled for December 5th. Showcasing India's role in global space innovation, the mission highlights advanced space technologies made possible by the collaboration between New Space India Limited, ISRO and European Space Agency.
Valuable science data. The next in the series, Proba.
The mission will function as an orbital lab, demonstrating acquisition, rendezvous, proximity operations and formation flying, while validating innovative metrology sensors and control algorithms, opening up novel methods of mission control. In Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis will be sworn in as Chief Minister at Mumbai's historic Azad Maidan today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Union Home Minister Amit Shah, who helped pull off the BJP's historic 132-seat win in Maharashtra, will be present for the swearing-in. Earlier, Fadnavis, along with leaders of the BJP, Shiv Sena and NCP's Mahayuti alliance, submitted a letter of support to the governor on Wednesday. Following this, Fadnavis said that his government would work 24/7 for the welfare of people across segments, caste, communities and religion, backward and oppressed classes. Growth in India's dominant services sector remains strong in November, driven by high demand, recording hiring and the steepest price rise in over a decade. New orders from both domestic and international markets also supported the growth. The HSBC India Services Purchasing Managers Index remained strong at 58.4 in November. The sub-index for new business fell slightly but showed no major signs of weakness, with international demand rising at its fastest pace since August. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies in the OPEC Plus meet on Thursday are likely to extend output cuts until the end of the first quarter of next year. Without a new agreement, the 8 countries which have been making voluntary additional production cuts of 2.2 million barrels per day are currently set to begin increasing production beginning in January to gradually return it to 2022 levels. Algeria, Iraq, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, Oman, Russia, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have already twice pushed back the production increases that were set to have begun in October and then in December. Airbus has announced over 2,000 job cuts in its defense and space division, a dramatic restructuring aimed at countering fierce competition from the US satellite sector. More than half of the 2,043 positions, including 1,128 in space systems, will be eliminated, targeting management and overhead roles. Now, this follows 1.5 billion euros in satellite write-downs, driven by losses on its OneSat program and the rise of low-cost rivals like Elon Musk's Starlink. Germany faces the heaviest toll with 689 cuts, followed by France, Britain and Spain. Airbus says no compulsory layoffs will occur as it fights to reposition Europe's space industry. Now, these cuts, part of Project Proton, mark a critical step in reshaping Europe's aerospace powerhouse for survival. Bitcoin rose over 100,000 US dollars for the first time on Thursday as the election of Republican Donald Trump as the president of the United States spurred expectations that his administration will create a friendly regulatory environment for cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin has more than doubled in value this year and is up about 45% in the 4 weeks since Trump's sweeping election victory. More than 16 years after its creation, Bitcoin appears on the cusp of mainstream acceptance. All right, let's get to updates from the world of sports now. Indian chess grandmaster D. Gukesh and reigning champion Ding Liren will face each other once again in the 9th game of the World Chess Championship 2024 on Thursday in Singapore. Game 8 saw a 5th consecutive draw between both the challengers, where the game ended in a draw after 51 moves. The 14-round match saw its 6th draw. Liren scored victory in the opening game, while the 18-year-old Gukesh claimed the 3rd game. Their scores are now leveled at 4 each with 6 games to go. The first player to reach 7.5 points will win the title. A moment of pride for coach P.R. Srijesh as the Indian hockey team defeated arch rivals Pakistan 5-3 in the final of Men's Junior Asia Cup 2024 hockey in Muscat on Wednesday. With this win, India claimed a record-extending 5th title. Arajit Singh Hundal was the hero for the winning side with 4 goals, while Dilraj Singh hit 1. For Pakistan, Sufyan Khan hit 2 and Hanan Shahid scored 1 goal. It was Pakistan who took an early lead in the game, but India bounced back within a minute to level the scores. Thanks to Arajit, India even took a 3-1 lead at one point, but their opponents too made a remarkable comeback to make it 3-all. Arajit then scored twice in the 4th quarter to help India eventually win the game. Crowds gathered to celebrate the lighting of the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree in New York City, dazzling with over 50,000 multicolor LED lights. The tree will remain lit daily through mid-January, cherishing the fervor of festive season. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audience. So if you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. With that reminder, we end this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.